Welcome back to our series of educational videos for Northern Virginia homeowners. I'm Frank Felker, joined again today by the expert on home remodeling and improvement, president of Orion Home Improvements, Jeremiah Davies. How are we doing today, Jeremiah?
As always, it's a pleasure to be here, Frank.
Glad to have you back with us. We have a very important topic to talk about today, Jeremiah. That has to do with insurance claims and getting repairs done to your house after a storm or other natural disaster blows through. Sometimes homeowners feel a little bit jammed up against the wall working with insurance companies and trying to get full value out of the investment they make every month in their insurance premiums. So is there anything in general that makes this different? How can we make sure that we get the most out of an insurance claim for repairs?
Well, Frank, with that, my advice has absolutely nothing to do with the contractor at this point. I would recommend that homeowners develop a good relationship with your insurance agent. I personally have a very good relationship with my agent. So when it comes time to understand the kind of ins and outs of my policy, I have a great go-to. And so that would be a good relationship with your agent and understand your policy. There's a few different types of policies out there. And what we want to look for is we want to look for a policy that has a deductible that you're comfortable with. And that deductible is the amount of money that you're going to be coming out of pocket with before any kind of reimbursements made from the insurance company. And secondly, you're looking for a policy that has a replacement cost value built in. If you have an actual cost value for your policy or an ACV policy, basically what the insurance company will do is they will determine the worth or the amount of the loss. They will depreciate it by how many years you've had it in service, and then only give you a depreciated amount. Whereas the RCV, or replacement cost value, will get you the entire amount for what it costs to replace the item. So knowing your policy and knowing your agent really is the best way to start, Frank.
Sounds like those higher levels of coverage might cost a couple of bucks more every month, but certainly pay off for you in the long run.
Absolutely. What we have to do is we really have to understand what insurance is, and insurance is kind of the catastrophe buffer. Some homeowners tend to think that an insurance policy can be used for maintenance items. I can't tell you how many times, for very, very small items that a homeowner wants to use their insurance policy for taking care of it. And what I try to help them understand is that an insurance policy for your home isn't going to cover losses that are due to maintenance and regular stuff that you need to be doing on your home. They make home warranty policies specifically for that. So what you want to do is, before filing a claim, make sure that you have a legitimate loss so that you don't have a claim that gets denied. And if you do have a legitimate loss, talking with a contractor to get an overall idea of it so you don't end up filing a claim where it only comes out to be a few dollars more than your deductible. So now you have that black mark on your record and you only get a couple bucks from the insurance company.
So you're filing a claim, but you're not really getting paid much for it, and yet it still goes against your record as far as your claims filing. Now, it's interesting you said to have a great relationship with your agent. Are there cases where the agent can actually help and go to bat for you when you're filing a claim?
Well, your agent can kind of guide you through the process, but what's going to happen is the insurance company is going to assign an adjuster to come out and basically assess the loss and the damage. And these adjusters, they have their programs that have a price for everything from a broken coffee pot all the way up to the shingles on your house and everything in between. Your mink coat got damaged, there's a line item for that. Your shingles got damaged, there's a line item for that. Your kid's marble collection got damaged, probably a line item for it. So when it comes to having a good relationship with the agent, it's about knowing your policy and getting direction as far as that goes. But the adjuster is the one that's going to be submitting the claim to the insurance company for approval. And my question to you and our audience here, Frank, is who do you think that adjuster's best interests are in mind, for getting the most money to the homeowner or limiting the insurance company's liability?
Absolutely. He knows which side his bread is buttered on.
Absolutely. And so in some cases, what we do is we actually recommend our customers possibly contact a public adjuster. This would be an adjuster they hire themselves to do an assessment of the damage, and then they would negotiate with the insurance company's provided adjuster. So now you have two guys going back and forth, one on your team, one on the insurance company's team, trying to meet in the middle to get the customer the best return and make sure they can get made whole by the loss that happened.
That's interesting. A public adjuster. how would I find a public adjuster, and do you have any idea how much their services cost?
A public adjuster will range anywhere from 5 to 20% of a claim amount to get the stuff taken care of. So really trying to find out, where the fees are associated there. And it's a very quick Google search. Every state has public adjusters, and these guys, their job is simply to come in and make sure they're representing a homeowner. And most of the time they're in very extreme situations where a policy may be limiting, coverage by $120,000, that needs to be done to get a home made whole. An entire fire that is catastrophic loss. The adjuster comes in and the public adjuster fights on your behalf. And while you may say, 20% seems like quite a bit, well, if they get you an extra 100,000 for your claim, what's 20,000 that you didn't have before going out to the adjuster? So
yeah, that's a great point. That's a really strong point. Well, let's say that we've come to terms with the adjuster and our insurance company, and repairs are beginning to take place at our home. Are there any things that we need to be aware of in terms of managing the project at our home that are different with an insurance claim project versus, let's say, just when we decided to have something done voluntarily?
First things first is try to find a contractor that has a bit of experience in insurance restoration claims. By being familiar with the process, the contractor can more easily navigate the repair process. And then the second bit of advice, and the most important, is document everything. Every cost, every receipt, every change order. Get photographs, get paperwork. The more documentation you have, the better chances you have of filing for a supplement. Let's say that a contractor starts fixing some damage, and they get in and they find out it's more damage than what was originally on the adjustment. Well, they can file what's called a supplemental claim, which would ask for more money to come in to kind of help cover those additional costs. But if you don't have the proper documentation, your chances of getting that supplemental cost coverage go way down. So that would be the two bits of advice. Work with a contractor with some experience and document everything.
That's great advice. Excellent advice. Trust but verify. Document every step along the way and make sure that we're all on the same page. Well, we're just about out of time again for this interview, but I was wondering, I always like to ask you for one last bit of advice. I wonder if we could go back to the beginning of the process here, because we're hopeful that whoever's watching us today is not right in the middle of a recent storm damage claim, but perhaps is thinking about protecting themselves in the future. Does it make sense, as part of your relationship with your agent, to maybe have them come over to the house and take a look around and talk about areas where your coverage may be lacking?
It'd be a great idea. Developing that good relationship with your agent can do a couple of things. Number one, it can make sure that your assets are properly protected by identifying what the true costs are. You can make sure that your building is covered, your assets inside the home are covered. So yeah, that relationship is great. The last bit of advice I would say here, Frank, though, is most storms that come in that, let's say a hailstorm, for example, one of the most common things that causes a lot of widespread insurance damage, it will bring quite a few contractors where their only mission in life is to chase insurance restoration work via hailstorms. So what I would do is make sure you're choosing your contractor properly and pay attention for things that sound out of place about a contractor paying for your deductible or giving free upgrades. The reason I say this is because if a contractor invoices the insurance company for anything different than what they're talking to you about, they've just committed insurance fraud, and they can drag you down a legal path that you don't want to go as a homeowner. So just be wary about following the rule of law, because it can come back to bite you, even though you're thinking you're getting a bit of a sweet deal. Wow.
That's an important piece of advice I was not aware of, that their actions could constitute insurance fraud, which I assume could mean that your claim is going to be invalidated, and now it's all on you.
Very much so. And the legal ramifications and the fines that kind of come along with that kind of stuff are not a place that most homeowners expect to be, nor do they want to be. So, just going to be a little bit wary. There's great contractors out there doing great things for customers, but every once in a while, just if it sounds too good to be true, take a step back and think about it, because usually it is.
That's great stuff. Well, Jeremiah, thank you again for joining us in this educational series, and thank you for watching. Be sure to come back and join us again for our next edition of this educational series for Northern Virginia homeowners.